After being shut out of power for years, Democrats won all major statewide races in Michigan last November. Those Dems said it's just a preview of what's to come in 2020. When Governor Gretchen Whitmer picked a relatively unknown Garlin Gilchrist as her running mate, there was a collective "who?" from both parties. He was a surprise pick and a bold move. Lieutenant Governor Garlin Gilchrist, it's so nice to have you. Thanks for talking with me. It's weird to say have you because here I am really in your home state.
Well, thank you for being here and thank you for having me.
Of course, of course. So talk to me about Detroit. The narrative around Detroit is always comeback. It's a comeback. It's in the middle of a comeback. There are a lot of people who would say the comeback has not come back to them and that it's actually passed them by. And of course, those are some communities of color in this area.
Well, I'm a Detroiter, native Detroiter born and raised. As Lieutenant Governor, I still live in the city of Detroit. And it is true that there has been progress on a number of fronts. We saw, communities, we saw philanthropy, we saw business come together in a way that we've never seen in the city's history because the city is so important. But it is true that there are so many people in our city and in this broader metro area, frankly, who still need to be part of the progress.
So how do you do that? I mean, if you just look at one indicator, like home loans, back in 2007, when blacks made up 82% of the city, they had 75% of the home loans. That number's gone down significantly, even though blacks make up 79% of the population. So that's sort of stayed, fairly
Well, that's
stable.
an indication that, the mortgage crisis hit black homeowners and black families harder than perhaps any other community. And so in a city that's as black as Detroit is, you saw it. So we're trying to, first of all, work to challenge to say, how can these lending institutions, first of all, step up? They're doing better. They have recovered. Now it's time for them to help families recover as well.
Can you have equitable rebuilding, which people talk about, without having gentrification?
Yes, absolutely.
Really?
I think you
Because
can.
often making something better makes it more expensive, which immediately means the people who've been there no longer can stay there.
Well, what's unique about Detroit is that it is a massive city. Detroit is the size, you combine Manhattan, Boston, and San Francisco, they can all fit inside of Detroit with room to spare. So a lot of times the expensive stuff that comes with the gentrification in other cities has to do with this scarcity of space. We don't have that problem in Detroit. We can do that if we do development differently.
Let's talk politics. Is there a candidate in this race on the Democratic side, I assume, who you predict to do well, win in the primary first?
The candidate who wins in Michigan will be the candidate who shows up the most in Michigan. The person who remembers to talk about the things that matter. When we ran in 2018 and had record-breaking turnout in a state that Donald Trump won by 10,000 votes, we won by 10 points. We did that by talking about fixing infrastructure and solving problems, by closing the skills gap and investing in education, and by cleaning up our drinking water. So candidates who want to win in Michigan are going to stick to those issues.
What is the vibe on Donald Trump in not just Detroit, but in the state of Michigan? As you mentioned, he narrowly won 10,000 votes. But a lot has changed.
I think that Donald Trump's rhetoric and policies have been dangerous and destructive for the state of Michigan. But there are parts of the state where he has earned people's support and trust. I expect him to show up in Michigan and campaign, and Democrats are going to need to do the same thing if we want to beat him. But, Michigan is a battleground state for a reason, but we proved in 2018 that it can be a blue state if we put in the work.
Do you want to be governor one day? I mean, your political backstory is an odd one. Very few people go from working at Microsoft to sort of popping up as lieutenant governor. Are you on a political path where one day you say, yes, I see presidency in my sights?
I mean, this path to public service was a winding one for me, but one was responsive to people's needs. When I first ran for office in 2017, it was in response to making elections work better for people. When I ran for lieutenant governor alongside Gretchen Whitmer, it was because I saw an opportunity to apply the things that I've learned in my career from the private sector and from the nonprofit sector and advocacy and working in government to try to solve problems at a big statewide level. I think that if I'm able to work alongside the governor effectively, if I'm able to make good choices and have some impact on the policy areas that I care about, infrastructure, transit and transportation, connecting people to the internet, reforming our system of criminal justice, enabling people with ideas, then the sky's the limit.
Lieutenant Governor Gilchrist, it's so nice to have you. Thanks for talking with us.
Thank you very much.
You bet.